Walk with me.
Truly God is good to Israel, even to such are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone, my steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish, when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no brands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not troubled as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fairness. They have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people return hither, and waters are of a full cup are wrung out to them. And they say, how doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. Verily I have cleansed my heart in vain, and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day long have I been plagued with chasing every morning. If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. Until I went into the sanctuary of God, then understood I their end. Yes. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation? As in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors. As a dream when one walketh, so, O Yahweh, when thou wakest, thou shalt despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee, and thou hast holden me by thy right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel. Afterwards, receive me to glory, whom I have in heaven but thee. But there is none upon the earth that I desire beside thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is my strength, is the strength of my heart, and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed them all that go a-whoring from thee. But it's good for me to draw near to God, for I have put my trust in the I am God, that I may declare all thy works. Psalms chapter 73. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed forever, that we go not astray henceforth and forevermore. Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. Yes. Good morning. Good afternoon. Well, let me adjust this a little bit. Sometimes it's a little bit bad there. This old monitor. But good afternoon, good evening. Those of you on this platform and those shared platforms, we thank God for you, you, and you. Yes. And also with a hand clap of praise, we thank God for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, and those of you that have been thereafter and here and there's about, and then those of you that are about to subscribe or follow. And we thank God for those of you that are about to follow, calling those things that are not as though they are. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. We all praise God for his mercy and his favor. Yes, many times we have to understand. One thing stands out among the jargons, religious jargons, is mercy. Many times I say 90% of the time, we think mercy is favor. But if God have mercy on you, you have obtained a lot from the Most High. Yes, you have. You have obtained a lot from the Most High, because he has had mercy on you. Yes. Well, God have mercy during this day. Mercy. People don't like to say mercy. They like to say grace. Oh, so to have favor from the Most High, you have to have confidence in the Most High. And if you don't have confidence in the Most High, so it deems itself mercy. And then your confidence is also reflected in the way you live and obey his commandments, statutes, and ordinances, even his commandments. Yes, we're in the book of Jasher. We're still in the chapter 56 in the book of Jasher. We ended in chapter 22, and we are about to go into, verse 22, and we're about to go into verse 23. So we're in Jasher chapter 56, ending in verse 22, and beginning at verse 23 as you prepare. Yes, and we previously known that Jacob ceased commanding his sons, and he drew his feet in the bed, and he died. Jacob was, he was an awesome father. These are the fathers of what they would call the faith. Not those ones who created all this havoc with these churches and all that. No. You got it all backwards. These are the fathers. The ones who led by example. They weren't always perfect. Neither were the children, as far as our standard of perfect is. But the fact is, what does it take to, I'm going to leave this up as an investigation for you. What does it take for a man or a woman to have a heart like David? A heart after God's own heart. A woman after God's own heart. A man after God's own heart. What does it take? Being for real, being honest with yourself. Because many gaslight themselves. We live in a society that's often gaslighting all the time. Gaslighting. You look that up to find out what it means. All the time. I look at the different shows on different social medias, and I look at the conversation between men and women, and I see one entity is gaslighting and the other one is they're trying to figure this out or whatever, but gaslighting. In other words, somebody done found you out, but you're trying to make it one thing seem like it's another. Is what you're doing. You're trying to make it seem as though they don't know what they're talking about when they already found you out and already identified the type of person you are, and then your intentions, and then you try to flip the switch, but it don't work. My shout out to all those social media hosts that point these things out about the opposite sex, things that really are true, and some of them on a grand scale, which needs to be addressed and corrected if each individual see themselves and correct themselves. Yes. Now, Jubilees chapter 56 and verse 23. And Joseph fell upon his father, and he cried out. Now, this man loved his father. Although he ain't seen his father in over 20 years, he loved his father. And he cried out and wept over him, and he kissed him, and he called out in a bitter voice, and he said, "Oh, my father, my father." Something like about that thing when you say your Esau cried out and said, "Father, why have thou forsaken me?" That really wasn't what that means. That's not even, they say, Eloi, Eloi, sabachthani. No. That means, if you look in the coastal language, it says, this is for the Sabbath keepers. But the fact is that that's what their language says. Yes, it is for the Sabbath keepers. The whole thing doesn't lie on you just keeping the Sabbath. It's the way you walk before the Most High, and that you love the Most High with all your heart, mind, and soul, and like this, as your neighbor, as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. So what is love? Well, to put it plainly, love is the law. Law is the love. You say God is love and love is God. He that loveth not God, for God is love. Huh? Isn't that a scripture out of your New Testament? Huh? So the law is love. God, the express image of God and his character is expressed in the law. His commandments, statutes, and ordinances. This is the law of the Most High. Some of it is just plain paying attention to God, like prayer and sacrificing, asking forgiveness and acknowledging his power. And the other one is saying, hey, this is how I'm going to treat my neighbor. Love is measured by the law, for the law is fair. Now, some things in your whole scenario or deranged mind might think that God is not fair and evil, which is not the case. You're not unfair and evil. You're unfair and evil. Because the fact is, if you hit me in my eye, don't I have a tendency to want to hit you back and pluck your eye out too? If you take my little girl and you demise her, wouldn't you think I want to take your son and demise him too? See, God is fair. But to this liberal world, you glorify the criminal, but then you push aside the victim. You let the criminal live, and you spend thousands of dollars on his housing. Though I'm talking about murderers and those who would violate children and women and even men. You let them live. They have just destroyed somebody mentally and physically, but yet you let them live. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Even God said in what you'd say, Exodus chapter 20, he said, if two men are striving, they see this woman and this man together and they strive, and one man push back, they're fighting, and this woman somehow is, and have been caught up in it, but maybe she didn't know, or they were doing something and they wound up, and then they did something to her child that was in her womb. And so what happened? If God says, hey, we're going to take this to the priest. The priests were the judges then. And they judge what? With the word of God, not the pastor. The pastor is not your judge. He don't even know the law. But the priests, they would go by the law written. This was the law. It wasn't all these loopholes and everything that they have here in the U.S. or Africa or any other law or democratic law. No, God said what's fair is fair. You fell on this woman. You saw that you should have stopped. This woman was around and she was too close and tell her to get back. But he said, no, we're going to tell you. It depends on what the man says, depending on how severe the damage was. A life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Whatever the man say, that you will pay, even if it's your life. Is that inhumane? Or not you inhumane when you didn't think of the other human being as being human? But you wanted them to be a dog because of the hue of their skin, or the texture of their hair, or the thickness of their lips, huh? Evil and adulterous generation. How foolish are we? Now let's continue. Let's continue. And it says in verse 24, and his sons and wives and all his household came and fell upon Jacob, and they wept over him, and they cried in a very loud voice concerning Jacob. And all the sons of Jacob rose up together, and they all tore their garments. This was the way of Israel. This was the way even of all the earth at that time, known earth at that time, which was really right up in that upper north corner, down from Mount Ararat where Noah had descended, and then it spread out, okay, according to the commandment of the Most High. And all the sons of Jacob rose up together, and they tore their garments, and they all put their sackcloth upon their loins, and they fell upon their faces, and they cast dust upon their heads toward the heavens. And the thing was told unto Osnath, Joseph's wife, and she rose up and put on sack, and she with all the Egyptian women with her, and came and mourned and wept for Jacob. And some of you feminists says, well, she's supposed to be God. She didn't have to mourn for Joseph. Yeah, Jacob. You got to get your uneducated, backward self somewhere and sit down. 27. And also all the people of Egypt who knew Jacob came all on that day when they heard this thing. And all Egypt wept for many days, because for all they heard from Abraham all the way to Jacob, these were just men. They did not come to harm anyone. They only passed through. This is why God tells you in his law, you will not oppress a stranger, for you were a stranger in the land before too. Even the Chinese, when they ran through in the book of the Discoverers by Mr. Osteen, they gave gifts unto the Europeans, and they wanted to make friends and trade, and they just gave free stuff, you know, on a numerous occasions. And eventually these people got so wicked, when they start going through again and wanting to trade, they began to charge them a toll to go through their waters, to dock at their ports. A toll when they're getting all this free merchandise. The giant, he said, to put it plainly, they said, to hell with y'all. They went back to their country and they ain't came back since. But the fact is, evil is known to her children. Now, and from that land of Canaan did the women come unto Egypt, and they heard that Jacob was dead, and they wept for him in Egypt for 70 days. They wept. I mean, just the thought of this was not an evil man. Man never was evil. There was evil done to him. And it came to pass after this that Joseph commanded his servants and the doctors to embalm his father with myrrh and frankincense. It smells so good. Frankincense and myrrh. I mean, if you can ever get that fragrance in your house, you never regret it. Some of you liken frankincense and myrrh to the Indian incense, and you think it's paganism, but that's not so. The whole world at that time, see, this is why I can tell that everything started in the northern regions. As far as Egypt, it was east of Egypt and northeast of Egypt. A lot of things have started from where Noah got off the boat. Let's put it that way. I mean, frankincense, myrrh, Ethiopia. You have to realize the east side of the Nile is really Israel. From the river Euphrates all the way to the east side of the Nile. Now, the west would belong to another country. Now, the borders that they have built, see, this is why you might say Somalia and all those places was Israel. It's true. But the fact is, it's not where Jerusalem is. Okay? According to these writings in the narrative, yes, from the Euphrates to the brook of Egypt is what God said. He gave them a vast stretch of land. In other words, he even gave them the whole Red Sea. The whole Red Sea. It didn't belong to any other nation. But mostly the Red Sea was all the way down to where, in my own estimation, where the Euphrates stopped, and then you just draw a line across. I mean, I'm just being simple, not being intricate. And after that, you had where Jethro was, you know, he was a Shemite. And this is what you call the Yemen. But those places have been overrun because of the disobedience of the children of all Israel. Now, I'm not talking about just the 10 tribes, but the whole thing was taken from them and overran by either one way or another. Then you had on the other side of the Euphrates, you have Babylon, and you have all those other countries, Persia, and all those other countries that we talk about. Check it out. Now, let us continue. Now, it came to pass that now in 30, we're in verse 30, and all the people of Egypt and all the elders of all the inhabitants of the land of Goshen wept and mourned over Jacob, and all his sons and the children of his household lamented and mourned over their father Jacob many days. And after the days of his weeping had passed, at the end of 70 days, now they had to embalm him and make his body not stink. You know, the Egyptian way was to take your innards out, or should I say your guts out, so it wouldn't stink so bad. So They had him embalmed, they wrapped him up or whatever they did to him, and he didn't, they put all kind of incense on him so it wouldn't smell. Now Joseph said unto Pharaoh, I will go up and bury my father in the land of Canaan, as he made me swear, and then I will return. Because he knew he had an obligation to Egypt. Not just by Pharaoh, but by God. And Pharaoh sent Joseph, saying, Go up and bury thy father, as he said, and as he made thee swear. And Joseph rose up with all his brethren to go to the land of Canaan, to bury their father Jacob, as he had commanded them. And Pharaoh commanded that it should be proclaimed throughout Egypt, saying, Whoever goeth not up with Joseph and his brethren to the land of Canaan to bury Jacob shall die. In other words, he had that clout. And all Egypt heard of Pharaoh's proclamation, and they all rose up together. And all the servants of Pharaoh and the elders of his house and all the elders of the land of Egypt went up with Joseph, and all the officers and nobles of Pharaoh went up as the servants of Joseph, and they went to bury Jacob in the land of Canaan. Now here they go. You got a whole funeral procession coming from, now this is a lot of people. How in the world are you going to take a straight route into Canaan? See, now this is, you're not going to go all the way from Egypt to South Africa with a whole entourage of these people with a dead body on somebody, and then you got all the 12 sons of Jacob carrying this body on a cart or on some type of platform. No. You have to call a buck a buck. Sorry. It ain't even in Kenya or nowhere in there. Canaan is where exactly they say Canaan is. Canaan is the land that they call Palestine. That is Canaan. It's even written in even the Islamic people there call that place Canaan. You go to Tel Arad, the temple in Tel Arad, you will see it will actually read Canaan. This was Jebus. Where was Jebus? Jebus is Jerusalem. So what Jerusalem they're in, I don't know. And it also has the ruins, and you can also go by the ruins with the, should I say, you can take the ruins and you can just follow it with scripture, every little intricate of it. God is revealing something. He's revealing it because the times are getting shorter. The clock of the Most High, it's been a few days now in the heavenly tables. The clock is getting shorter. He said 10 days from the times that the angels were bound in the river Euphrates, and they were bound, the watchers were bound in the pit. He's going to let them loose. 10 days in the heavenly tables, which is 10,000 years, according to the book of Enoch. It's not 10,000 years yet, or ever. You wouldn't even be taught. We wouldn't even be viewing each other at all. So that just tells me something. Either all these writings are a total lie, or it just hasn't happened yet. This world is not even 1,000,000 years old, not according to your secular and whatever wild estimation you come up with as far as the age of the earth. Because even the scientists, they differ. One set of scientists says your carbon dating doesn't even go back 7,000 years. And the other one's, oh, this has been 1,000,000 years by. What standard are you giving? It's just like righteousness. What did they say the prophet said? By what measure? He said, judge not that you might not be judged. By what measure you judge with or meet, that judgment you will be judged. In other words, if I judge you because I'm white and you're black, or I'm black and you're white and you're not this and you're not that, it's going to be measured right back to you. In other words, there is only one measure that we can therewith judge by, is the law, statutes, commandments, ordinances of the Most High. Those are his precepts. That's the law. The law is the precepts. Whenever you get into history and all those things and you see what people do, you go back to the law. This is your precept. The law will tell you, you go back to the precepts and it's going to tell you what this person have done wrong, or what is the judgment on this person. And this is what they did back in Israel. So you get all this other stuff. Oh, we're going to go back to the precept. You ain't got no precept. You don't know what the world you talking about. Get out of here. Look up what precept is. Ignorant is known of her children. But either way. Now, Egypt went up with Joseph. 35. We in verse 35. And the sons of Jacob carried the bearer upon which, that is the coffin or whatever you want to call it, upon which he lay, according to all that their father commanded them. So did this. He says, I'm going to have 4 of you on one side, 4 of you on another, and I'm going to have 2 of you in the back and 2 of you in the front. For the other, in other words, he's saying it's 12 sons. In other words, 3, 3, and 3. But Levi and Judah was left out of the equation in carrying their father. And he also prophesied that Levi would carry the Ark of the Covenant. They already had the covenant. The covenant was in Jacob, really. But Levi wasn't carrying it, but he was talking something that's foretelling. Now, he foretold him, and he foretold of Moses also coming to free or to deliver. God's going to use him to see you. There's no such thing as a deliverer per se. There's a man that God uses to speak. He's being used as the angel. See, if that's the case, God could have sent a messenger, a spirit messenger, to a leader or to a group of people and tell them, let my people go. But no, God chose, he said, I'm going to choose a man among your brethren to deliver this message that will deliver your people. Let's get it right. Even this prophet that came, like they say, over 2,000 years ago, still his message. He was a man all the way. Joseph, or whoever his father was, had copulation with his mother. And his mother delivered him. And now he says he's going to deliver you. He hasn't delivered you yet. He told you things, and what he did was remind people of the law. Yeah, you commit sin in your heart when you lust against someone else's, a woman against a man or anything. Yes, that's sin in your heart. But it's not unto death. Not yet. You haven't committed the sin. It's just lingering in your heart. He said already in your heart. See, many of us, we just, if I harbor sin in my heart, then what? God will not hear me. What is the sin? The sin is thou shalt not lay with thy neighbor's wife. And you want to lay with your neighbor's wife in your heart, or your neighbor's husband in your heart. That is the sin right there. You have just transgressed the law, period, in your heart. But that's not unto death. That's not, God won't hear you until you begin to see the ludicrousness and the idiosyncrasy. I'm making up new words. The idioso, I'll put it that way, of what you're doing. And many of us, we've done things, we've desired things we regret we even desire, but did it lead to the actual act? This is where God is absolute. The act of doing such a thing. The act is more than a thought. It's acting out your thought. So if you can nip it in the bud before it even gets there, if you don't be drawn, you've developed lust. What does it profit you to have your neighbor's wife or their husband? What does it profit you anyway to lay with animals or anything to that nature, or walking out of your gender and all? What does it profit you? It doesn't. It's parasitical. There's nothing that can bring good of it. But either way, I digress. Let us go. Now, verse 36. And the bear was of pure gold, and it was inlaid around about with onyx stones, bdellium, and covering. They used a lot of bdellium in that day. Yes, they used a lot of bdellium. You see that word appear many times throughout this narrative. And the bear was of gold woven work, joined with threads, and over them were hooks of onyx stones and bdellium. And Joseph placed upon the head of his father, a large golden crown. In other words, you're a king. King. See, don't let them get you all messed up with all this other writing. That was King Abram. That was King Isaac. And that was King Jacob. They were kings before they even got away from God. They were kings. A kingdom is not measured by what Europeans or anybody else say by their own standard. Kingdom is measured by what? By its people loyal to its leader. That is a kingdom. And see, you talking about these here things have been translated from a Greek perspective to help you understand things in Greek mindset. Come on here. So we try to make the best of it because this is all we got. This is all the breadcrumbs God leave us at this time. Now, and all the troops of Egypt went before him in this array, and first of all, the mighty men of Pharaoh and the mighty men of Joseph, and after them, the rest of the inhabitants of Egypt, and they all girded with swords and equipped with coats of mail and trappings of war were upon them, and all the weepers and mourners went at a distance opposite to the bearer, going to weeping and lamenting, and resting of the people went after the bearer, the rest of the people. And Joseph and his household went together near the bearer, barefooted and weeping. And this is the same thing you would see in a funeral procession here in the U.S. The family, they will follow the dead. In other words, this is what actually what's going to happen. You're going to follow your dead mother, your dead father, your dead brother. You're going to follow that. The rest of them not going to follow you, although they're going to die, but not after you. Now, they went around him, each man had his ornaments upon him, and they were all armed with their weapons of war. And 50 of Jacob's servants went in front of the bearer, and they strewed along the road myrrh and aloes, and all the manner of perfume, and all the sons of Jacob that carried the bearer walking. King Jacob. And all the sons of Jacob that carried the bearer walked upon the perfumery. And the servants of Jacob went before them, strewing the perfume along the road, and Joseph went up with a heavy camp. And they did after this manner every day until they reached the land of Canaan. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, or Arad, which was on the other side of Jordan. And they mourned, an exceedingly great and heavy mourning in that place. And all the kings of Canaan heard this thing, and they went forth, each man from his house, 31 kings of Canaan. See, why are you calling these men kings, but yet this is not a king? He have defeated kings. Him and his royal subjects, which was his family. Wasn't that their family too? Come on here, just call a buck a buck. These people they're trying to think what's so stupid. Now, and they all came with their men to mourn and weep over Jacob. A king doesn't have to have all kind of gold and silver. He don't have to wear all that stuff. He's just a leader. That's it. You make kings out of to be more than what they are, an honored leader. That's all it is. And all these kings beheld Jacob's bier, and behold, Joseph's crown was upon it. And they also put their crowns upon the bier and encircled it with crowns. And all these kings made in that place a great and heavy mourning with the sons of Jacob in Egypt over Jacob. For all the kings of Canaan knew the valor of Jacob and his sons. And the report reached Esau, saying, Jacob died in Egypt, and his sons and all of Egypt are conveying him into the land of Canaan to bury him. Last one. And Esau heard this thing, and he was dwelling in Mount Seir, as the narrative stated he was going to do. And he rose up with his sons and all his people and all his house, and a people exceedingly great. And they came to mourn and weep over Jacob. Yes, King Jacob. That was King Esau too. That was king. He was over his sons, daughters, servants, which you would, some of you say are slaves. See what they're doing? They're playing a good word play, a bamboozle play on you. These were kings. In their own right, they were kings, not by your European standards, not by your Arabic standards, not by any standards that you have. These are kings. Their word was like gold. If Jacob said, let's go out and fight, what was his sons and all the other world subjects were going to go out and fight? But this king was led by a greater king who said, I am that I am. I am that I am. And he's worthy of all praise. He's a king over the whole earth. But yet he chose a certain people. And yet he's claiming that certain people back. Will it be you? Or are you going to go in your auspices of Christianity and worship idols and different belief systems that are not even in his laws, commandments, statutes, and ordinances? Or you might be Islamic. You're playing with beads and all kind of mess that God didn't even ordain. All these things stem from these books. Your whole thing. You can still call them Allah if you want to. That's up to you. I mean, you can do your little prayer. If that's the case, you can do your prayer. Your prayer is 7 times a day or however. And you can also pray 3 times a day, even as the prophet Daniel set the example. But the fact is that we have to look at it as it is. You honor God, but yet you honor men at the same time. You honor men that don't deserve your honor. You make them out of more than what they are. And they make God out of more than what they are. And this is where your flaw is. Then you adopt things that are not of God to make up your own rules and regulations and superstitions and your feast days. You shun them and you throw them out to do your own thing. And then you say, you're Islam. No, you're not Islam. The only way Islam, if you put yourself, you're Muslim, yeah, you are Islam if you do these things that God has prescribed through Abram, Isaac, and Jacob or Jacob. This is it. The law that came through Moses, not no Isa, not no Muhammad. None of these guys. Yeah, they have valid things that they say, but the fact is, the rest of it is of nothing without the law, statutes, commandments, and ordinances of the Most High. Even your jihad and all these other things, are they not derived from what God says in his law, statute, commandments, and ordinances? Come on, him! You greatly errant, many of you. And you're not seeing it for what it is. God is evil to the evil, and he's a blessing to those that will follow after his commandments, statutes, ordinances, and laws. With that, we're going to say peace.